Hello, everyone. We just, Melissa just cued us in. Um, and my name is Bob Branch. I'm here with Chuck DeLong.
I gave them the finger. That's what happened.
Yeah, Melissa said, I'm going to cue you in with the finger. And we're like, what?
Hey, Ethan. What's up?
So,
Hey, Justine.
I'm Bob Branch. This is Chuck DeLong. We're here to talk today in our Facebook and Instagram Live about addiction, grace, and recovery. And we're in the process, so we have a vision for starting a ministry that's helping people get out of, in particular, sexual and pornographic addiction. Not that that's not the doorway into a lot of other kinds of things, but that's something that we believe that the Lord has put on our hearts. And the Lord has raised up Chuck and his wife Linda to be leading that, and they are, I would say, uniquely qualified in this particular arena. And so I asked Chuck to come on today and give a bit of his testimony and here's the reason why we would want to give we would have Chuck give his testimony, because what ends up happening is we're so frequently sort of sucked into the shame deal of we can't come out and walk into the light because our sin is so much different and so much more heinous and so much darker than anybody else's. And then when you find out that you're not alone in this and that Jesus is not shaming you, he's beckoning you into the light, that when we do find that out, then we can come and walk into the light. We can walk into a recovery of which this is not an automatic and instantaneous kind of a thing. So with all that in mind, Chuck, tell us about yourself. Give us your testimony and how this worked with you.
All right. Well, hi, everybody out there in Facebook land. Again, my name's Chuck, otherwise known as Linda's husband, out there. But yeah, I mean, it goes way back. I mean, when I was a kid, basically, I started doing a lot of things out of curiosity. I was a farm kid, and there wasn't much to do on the farm. There wasn't much to do in the neighborhoods or the school or anything like that. But what I did was, through curiosity, I started smoking weed at a very young age. I started drinking it at like 8 or 9 years old. Alcohol. I think I was smoking weed by the time I was 11. And, through that also, when you're in that mode of curiosity, you're also looking, when I was younger, you were looking at magazines. There wasn't very much pornography that was right at our fingertips, not like it is today. But all these things started going hand in hand, and it was a very normalized thing for me as a kid. And then, the marijuana, the weed turned into, doing crystal meth, cocaine, heroin, all this stuff. And, before I know it, I was sucked knee deep into the world of addiction. Running the streets, left my house by the time I was 14 years old, been living on my own since I was 16. And I was kind of out there. And through all of this, all of the pornography, and the pornography was rampant, the magazines were everywhere, everybody was sleeping with everybody. And it was just a normal thing. It was a totally normalized in that world. It was completely normal. And the amount of addictions that actually grabbed hold of me, I was completely unaware of until much later on. And around 17 years old, about 17 and a half, I got locked up for about almost 2 months. And during that time, I was able to get sober, and they put me into a treatment center, an RTC, residential treatment center. And I was able to get some help with the drug addiction. And I've been clean and sober now. Here, I'm going to be 49 on Thursday, sorry. I'm going to be 49 on Thursday,
Woo!
so a couple days.
Yeah.
And I've been sober since I was 18. July 7th, 1989 was actually the day that I got sober. So a little over 30 years, which is absolutely crazy to think that much time has passed. But then after I got sober, all kinds of other things started showing up, like anger and rage and all these deep-seated things that literally I had no idea even existed because I had anesthetized myself. And so, here a few years after I got sober, my wife and I got involved in a mentorship organization. And in that organization, we came to the Lord, and the Lord showed up. And it was I grew up in church. My parents took me to church when I was a kid my whole life. And, until I moved out on my own, I was, loaded most of the time. But my wife and I got saved. And then when Christ came into the picture, it was amazing because Christ didn't say, Chuck, clean up and come to me. He said, Chuck, come to me and I'm going to help you clean up. Because I came with a lot of baggage, and my pride and joy was that I was sober, that I was clean and sober. I didn't realize there was so many other things that was creating all kinds of damage to me. And pornography was one of them. And one of the things was I played softball, slow pitch softball, and I traveled all over the United States because I was actually fairly talented. And all the guys that I went with, pornography and strip clubs was every single weekend. And every single night of every single weekend we were in those. And it was very normal for me to be in those situations. I didn't feel out of place or anything, but I felt dirty. And, after I came to the Lord, he literally started plucking those things out of my life. He started removing me. Chuck, I need you to be out of this. And Chuck, this is there. And he started convicting me and, coming to church and hearing amazing messages. And he started convicting me of what I needed to do. And so I searched for stuff. I searched for resources. I searched for things that would help get that stuff out of my life, because I could remove physically easily not going to strip clubs. I could remove easily not doing certain things, but my mindset was not changed. I still had that mindset that constantly rewound the old tapes of where I was and what I had done, and it brought it right back into my life. And I needed something that I could actually rewire my brain with. And so I did. I searched for stuff, and I would fall backwards, and I would search for stuff, and I would fall backwards. I would never relapse on drugs and alcohol, but relapsing in this other forms of sin, through anger, through rage, through pornography, through the sexual addiction, came fairly often. And so, it was, every time it would happen, I would feel guilty. I'd feel like I can't ever defeat this. Lord, why can't you just remove this from me? All these prayers, and then, people, and I was going to church, and I would talk to people about it, and then finally somebody handed me a book called Every Man's Battle. And I read that book, and it didn't mean much to me. And then I went through a really rough time in life here about 6 years ago. And somebody sat down with me and went through 2 books, Good and Beautiful God and Good and Beautiful Life. And those 2 books gave me a foundation of who God was. And then every other book, even though, I've been through Bible studies and all other stuff, but these gave me arrows in the quiver. And so every other book that I read from that point, all of a sudden had a foundation, like building a house on solid ground, knowing who the Lord was in my life, even though I was sinning. It's not about shame, it's about sin in our life. It's about the snares. I had no intention of being a drug addict when I smoked weed the first time. I had no intention of being a sexual porn addict the very first time I looked at a magazine. None of that happened. It was a very slow progression. And it was something that was totally natural, not the weed part, but the pornography part, the curiosity, the attraction to other women, all that stuff is very natural. And it's the snare, the same thing that catches something in a snare out there when you're hunting. If you put one out, you put its natural meat out there, and it comes thinking it's food for it, and it gets caught in something. And that's literally what the enemy had done. Was he had these snares that just so slowly cramped around me that I didn't realize were there until I tried to get away from them. And then I realized that I was entangled. And so going through the books, and I kind of created my own little system that I had been doing, because I had several men that had been coming to me with these same issues. And I had started my own similar scenario where I said, hey, I need to take you through Good and Beautiful God, Good and Beautiful Life. Then we'll jump into Every Man's Battle, maybe Finally Free, maybe Wild at Heart, different books that we will actually go through that'll help you identify what's there in the sexual sin through pornography and the addiction and the struggle and how to overcome it. Is going through that, because through drug addiction, there's a ton of stuff out there. There's tons of stuff, 12-step programs, there's recovery, relapse prevention, there's a ton of stuff. And through all of this, I had been working in social services, I've been working with residential housing, I've been working with people. I've been working in this field my entire life as well. So I really wanted to have something that not only for myself, that I had a foundation of, if I backslid or if I did anything, that I had a foundation for something that Christ had put in place, that I could rely on and know that Christ is with me no matter what I do. He's there. He never asked me to be clean when I showed up. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, because I was a train wreck, absolute train wreck. And so for me to walk into something, be able to keep my chin up, knowing that we're all sinners. We're all here, and Christ is the one inviting us in, was awesome. And then going through and figuring something out that I could work with other guys in this scenario, in particular snare that seems to be so rampant within our men and women. It's unbelievable. And how it shames them.
Even in the church.
Yeah. And in the church and everywhere. And it's such people have this shameful sin, and it's not, it's a sin. And God has given us resources, and He's given us Himself in order to walk us through this. And I'm really excited to be doing this because as soon as I heard, and we sat down and talked for the very first time, and they handed me the amazing Conquer series. And it was funny because it's a Conquer series and it's a 12-week, it's a long program. And I think I watched all the videos in like 3 days, which is not recommended. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
And I went through it and I read it, and man, it's all biblically sound. And then I started talking to other people from other churches, and they've been through this group, through other churches, because it just has the foundation to rewire your brain. And to be able to take what your brain has been snared into and all the endorphin releasing and everything that you go through, anytime first time you open up the video and first time you open a magazine, that rush that you get, we can rewire our brain to where that rush isn't necessary, and the Conquer series is actually a series that does that. It creates a relapse prevention plan. It does all kinds of stuff. And so I'm really excited, and I'm thankful to Bob and Becky, who Becky I know is the one that really led this charge.
Yeah, she is.
And,
yeah, that's my wife.
Did the research and did everything to be able to bring this forth. And, I'm really excited because I know there's freedom from this, and I've walked in this freedom. Mm-hmm. So I know that it's true. I remember Bob giving a message one time that was an Easter message. This is years and years ago about calming the storm, when Christ calmed the storm. And the one thing that I can say is I've never been in a physical storm that Christ has calmed, but I've been in the storm inside me that Christ has calmed. Mm-hmm. And so I know that he can just stop a storm, and he can take this and we can walk free of this addiction. Mm-hmm. We can walk free of all of our addictions because Christ is there to renew us, heart, mind, and body. It's all the way. So anyways, my testimony, I've been sober for a while, and, I've been walking free of this sexual addiction for a while, and I'm very excited to be able to get involved and really, be a part of this and go through it and set up my own plan, because I'm going to be able to rewrite it too. This is going to continue to help me grow in this same process. So I'm very excited about this, and I thank you guys.
So what we're looking at doing, so Chuck is... he's the poster child of this, which is really good, because he's a guy who's free, but still fragile and still, in the process. So we're all growing up in Jesus. It's not like, we're victors and now, there's no looking back or anything like that. I think that we all have feet of clay. That's an old way of saying that we all have inherent weaknesses in our own personalities that leave us vulnerable to things like that. So, in all of this, just to wrap this up, at least for today, and we'll be talking some more about this, is that we're going to be starting, we planned on starting the Conquer series on a week ago, Monday. And obviously from the coronavirus, and we could, where 2 or 3 are gathered and less than 10, we could have people gather in that whole thing, but we really can't gather physically without really kind of saying to the government who has our well-being in mind, mm-hmm. that we really don't care. But what we can do, and what we've been doing, is researching how we can bring people together. We can actually see what we can view the Conquer series on a Zoom, yep. On a Zoom meeting with everybody participating, and then we can actually have a group experience with Zoom in that. And so we're working out the kinks in that for probably we're a week or two out, a week
yeah.
out.
Our actual plan is to start this week, this coming up Monday, and I'll get that info out so that we can get it out to everybody. Mm-hmm. It's going to be through Zoom, and it's going to be from 7 to 8 p.m. this coming up Monday. And this week what we're going to do is we're going to watch the initial video of Conquer series, which is kind of the intro to it. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be diving into any workbooks, or nobody's going to have to be confessing all their sins or any of that stuff.
Unless you want tires.
Yeah, unless you want to, you can. Yeah. But we're going to do that this week, and we're going to do that again next week. And what that'll do is that'll give everybody the opportunity to get the materials, mm-hmm. the workbook and the book. So that way they have everything that they're working through that asks you questions. It's for the group discussions that we'll break into. So that way everybody can get their stuff. It'll give us a couple weeks to be able to order that. Yeah. So this Monday is when we're going to kind of kick the tires on that and see how it works out technologically. And but I've been on some Zoom meetings here lately with 500 people, and they go off without a hitch. So I really am praying that the Lord's with this, and I feel like He is, that, this is going to go off out of hitch as well. So.
Absolutely. So you'll be hearing some more from us on this as the week goes on. And Chuck has an email address that's called conquer_Chuck
Yep.
At thespringscc.org, and we'll make that known on all of our channels here to be able to get a hold of him. Conquer, CONQUER, right?
Yep.
QUER _Chuck at thespringscc.org. And you can get a hold of him if you're interested in joining into this. These particular meetings will not be open meetings. They'll be by invitation only. So you'll need to contact Chuck to be able to get in on the meeting itself when it's scheduled. And we really want you to do this because we know that the Lord wants you free. He doesn't want you walking in the darkness, and especially in this isolation, the social distancing dynamic that's going on at this point in time.
Yep.
It is just triggering people right and left in terms of their addiction and addictive behaviors in all kinds of different directions. We want to be able to help you in this. The Lord definitely wants to help you in this. So would you please take it seriously? Maybe you're a person that's kind of like, well, I view pornography, every once in a while, but I'm not really an addict, or I'm not going and sleeping around, or I'm not doing these things. But you keep returning to it, and you keep returning to it, and you keep returning to it. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 or 3 weeks, but you keep returning to it, and you don't find that you're actually able to stop from returning to it. That means that you've got an issue with this. This is not just for people that would be considered pornography addicts or sexual addicts. It's people who the hooks of this have gotten into them in some way, shape, or form. We want to help you to get free. Jesus wants you free. That's just the truth. So we really want you to sign up for this. Get a hold of Chuck in this, and we'll be also, Linda, his wife, will be starting a women's one and as well on that, where women with pornography and sex addictions, same kind of a deal, probably won't be starting at the same time, but not very far apart. So again, we're really excited about this. We're really excited about helping you get free. And until next time, thanks so much for tuning in. God bless you.